just think about the sanctity of the baseball record book. You know, we're all going to be gone someday, but baseball records are forever. That is the way it's treated too. Sometimes. No, the records in the book, you guys.
I love being a fan of sports. It's like everything in the world, like everything I have a passion like and enjoy. I hate the super fans of. I can't stand them. Like baseball, old timey people that piss and moan about records and the sanctity of the sport. I'm like, just stop. I'm like, just relax. Same with, like I said, everything. Every super fan of anything is annoying as fuck, and it's not cute. It's not. It's weird that you like love a team that way. Like that I don't know. Everything's fucking weird. Like there's a level. You become a weirdo at a certain level.
But we do love our super fans. All three of you. A lot.
I'll be honest with you. It's not fair. The people that like us are the people that we know. So it's like.
That's true.
I mean, it's not really the podcast that's doing it. You're using me for my podcast. You're using me to occupy yourself for an hour a week.
Do you think Abner Doubleday or whatever had like friends that wanted to like give him ideas for baseball when he was coming out with it? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, Abner.
You know what you should do?
Yeah. Instead of like, you know how the bases, you got to touch them? You should make them like, I don't know, you should make them like 3 inches off the ground just so somebody could maybe trip over one sometimes. Like just make it a little harder to get on it. You know, just like.
Right. Yeah. You know how home plate is like embedded into the dirt and not raised? Yeah. Well, what if for the first, second, or you know how all your bases are embedded into the dirt? Right. Well, what if only for first, second, and third base we pop them up and turn them into bags instead of a plate? All right. Yeah. No, I guess that would work. That seems to be good. We could do that. What's the advantage of it? I don't really know. But wouldn't it be wild? Okay, what's the difference from like home plate to pitcher's mound? Oh, it's 66 feet and 6 inches. What? Why are you being a wacky? No.
Oh yeah, and also there should be no black guys.
Oh, Jesus. What?
I've confused my priorities. Isn't it supposed to come to me? Yes, this is how it's meant to be. Every little thing flashing on a screen. Age of convenience. My daddy worked hard for this. Age of convenience. His daddy worked hard for this.
Yeah, hey, you should tilt your camera down a little. I just noticed. I got a lot of ceiling coming through. There we go. Plus I got to see the shirt. Never forget. Oh, the things that we like. Yay. Tapes
Yay.
and tapes.
Media.
And
Physical media.
floppy disk. Do you see, I've seen like, you know how every sports team's like social media person asks them questions about shit now, and then all the other teams ask the same questions. One of the hot ones now is like giving rookie or young NFL players physical media and asking them what they are, like if they know what it is.
Yes.
Kind of deal. Like, do you know what this is? I like give them like a VHS tape or something. It's like, I think this is a DVD. Like, or cassette tapes. A floppy disk is one of them. Is like, I have no idea what this is. Is this a CD?
Dude,
and,
give them
there really is that
disc.
detachment. Mm-hmm. Oh. What's great is people in the comments do get really mad. Like, I can't believe that these kids don't know what these things are that are so important to me that I know about because I grew up when these were out. And these kids don't know what they are. And then you can be like, well, you don't know about fucking, I don't know, iPhone 16 or something. I don't know.
Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It just doesn't, like, it's okay for shit to not matter. And I think we as a society realize there's way more shit that doesn't matter than does, but that we care so much more about the shit that doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, like they don't know what a CD is. And why should they? Like, it boils down to it. In what way would their life be better or society be better if they could identify it? It's not. That's why this is supposed to be fun. That's literally all it's supposed to be. It's not even downtrodden like on them. You know, like it's not putting them on the spot and making them look stupid. It's, you're not supposed to know what this is, but we're just curious if you happen to know what it is. Because if they happen to know what it is, it's for a weird reason. It's probably not because they use them. It's more just because maybe they're curious and they looked it up before and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's really weird. Yeah, like you understand so much more what you grew up with, and then pop culture, at some point, pop culture leaves you behind. It
does.
Yeah, like you said, it's like, yeah, you know it because you grew up with it being right in front of your face and utilized every day. The things that kids are growing up and using every day, I assure you, you're not in tune with. And so you lose, I guess. I don't know.
I still enjoy some of it. Like, I haven't totally detached from pop culture, or because most of it's internet culture now, so I'm online enough. Or I still enjoy kind of keeping up with what I think is relevant. Maybe I'm not even close. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm like keeping up with stuff, but who knows? I'm probably weeks behind, which is in this day and age, years behind.
Right.
But I still like it. Like, I'm not totally detached. I haven't been like, no, I don't care for that. Although I probably selectively do, but I don't realize it when it's happening. Like all the skibbity Ohio shit that's going on right now. That's the new hot whip in language, kids language that nobody understands.
Skibbity
Have I looked it up yet? No.
Something.
But do I know it exists? Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
I know
right.
that it exists.
Right. I don't know what's
I'm not
happening,
pretending.
but I know it's there, and like, as long as that, I don't know. As long as like I don't have like a 25-year-old come into my workplace and try like communicating me that way, like where it's actually affecting my well-being as like ability to do my job, then I'm okay with it. Like, you can have your code language that I don't get on the side. I really don't give a shit. I don't understand other languages. Foreign people are allowed to speak whatever language their language is. I don't go like, hey, you gotta speak American. Well, I mean, I don't, but good news. Millions and millions of voters do. But it's the same concept. I don't need to know what the fuck you're talking about. Is my first instinct like, wow, this seems insane to me? Yeah. But whatever. I mean, go nuts. I don't know. Sound like
Hey, Jeff.
Exactly.
I haven't Hey Jeff in a while.
Mm-hmm.
How was your... I know, speaking of baseball, you took a baseball field trip yesterday, right?
I
Didn't
did.
To Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, there is no better time to go to a baseball game than a meaningless, like a already clinched game against an interleague bad team like the Pirates, who isn't playing for anything, in a cold, rainy September Saturday. I mean, it is baseball as baseball was meant to be played. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to see a couple buddies, a couple of my fraternity brothers from college. I got to hang out with them and watch some baseball. Luckily, we were in the 400, so we were covered by the rooftop a little bit, as long as there wasn't wind. But then there was wind, so whatever.
What are the vibes at Yankee Stadium these days? I haven't been there. I've honestly, I have not been to new Yankee Stadium. The last time I was at Yankee Stadium was 1999.
Okay.
That was the old stadium.
All right.
So I know the new one, when it came out, had a lot of vibes of it was like this kind of Richie Rich, like lower deck area, and maybe it didn't have a heart and soul. But that was like, also, that's what would people would say when a new thing comes out. That's what anything new that replaces something old comes out, and people are like, I hate it. And just, that's the way it is.
Right. Oh, this cost $2 billion. I fucking hate it. Like, okay. Yeah, I mean, again, it's really hard to tell because of the situation. Like stands are very scant, because it was not a meaningful game and it was bad weather. So that's tough. I think a lot of people came out to see Paul Skeens pitch, who is the rookie pitcher for the Pirates, who's going to get Rookie of the Year for the National League. So that's exciting. People probably came out to see him, even though they pulled him after 2 innings because they were manipulating his numbers so that his ERA could fall below a 2. But I digress. We won't get into baseball.
Whoa. I can't believe they would manipulate the records like that.
Yeah, I know. Weird, right?
Asterisk.
Yep. Poor guy too, because he seems like a really easy guy to root for, and he's a really great pitcher. But yeah, the vibe, it's not too crazy because it just wasn't, there wasn't a lot at stake. I mean, it's comfortable. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it as, there's not like it's great because it has like Monument Park in the outfield. Like that's probably the coolest thing about it. But yeah, like it's got like a steakhouse in it and like a Hard Rock Cafe, which is kind of weird that you do a Hard Rock Cafe in the baseball stadium. But like, I don't know. It's
Hard Rock Cafe, Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, there is, and I don't like it. Just it doesn't have the charm. Like there's nothing interesting about the stands. Like the setup of the seats and everything, there's no interesting place other than the bleacher creatures out in the outfield. But those are those super fans a lot of the times that I really don't want to associate with. Like people just hammered, like screaming at the opposing team, and like it's not for me. I mean, yeah, it's on my list of stadiums that I like am impressed with and enjoy. Out of like the 19 stadiums I've gone to, Yankee Stadium is probably third quartile, maybe.
So it's just kind of a bland, billion-dollar operation.
You bet.
Functional.
Nothing to write home about, but I'm gonna go because that's the team I root for. So that's its saving grace. If someone was visiting and they went there, I don't know how they would feel. Like if it was a visiting team or something like that, someone that's not a Yankee fan, not from New York City. So yeah, I mean it's okay, but baseball's baseball, and yeah, you had to take subways and stuff to get there. So I took a train from Hamilton, New Jersey, just outside of Trenton. Jump on the NJ Transit, takes me to Penn Station. Now, what they don't tell you is that Penn Station is like 5 stations. So, like, I get out of my train and I'm looking around for my connecting train, and I'm like, I don't see the subway system in here. And, like, there was this tiny hallway that I could have gone down, but I didn't find that hallway. So I went outside the train station, and I went across the street to the Moynihan part of Penn Station. But it also wasn't in there. So I'm like, this is the second Penn Station building that I'm in, and I'm not where I need to be. So I walked around outside until I found a subway line. And then as I'm like boarding the subway, I call my buddy. I'm like, all right, so I'm taking the 1 train to 86th, right? Or 86th. And he's like, yeah. And then he calls me back as I'm going to the 1 train. He goes, hold on. They're doing work on the 1 train, and there's like limited. I'm like, okay, what? I'm not on a train yet. What do I do? He goes, all right, take the 2 train to 72nd Street. And I'm like, okay, whatever that means. He goes, there should be 2 stops. He's like, just take it to 72nd Street. He goes, and then when you leave 70, he goes, go up outside. You'll see Broadway. Just keep walking up Broadway, 72nd, 73rd, 74th, and call me when you're walking on Broadway. I'm like, what is this operation? So like he like met up with me halfway between his apartment and this. And you want when we went to the game, we were supposed to catch a certain train. And he goes, no, there's work being done. Or we found out there was work being done on a different train that we had to take. So he's like, okay, so we have to take the D line to 112th and then change trains to the C line. And I'm like, I get public transit, and I like public transit, but man, he was an example of like, how do you guys do this? I'm like, how do you just know your alternative routes and everything? It's just like, oh, I'm taking this train to 86. Oh, quick reroute. Okay, I can take this train to 72nd. That's the next best thing. And I'm like, those don't sound like those should be the next best things, but like, it's just this weird manipulation of understanding it. If you grew up there, those people just fucking, it's amazing to understand the subway system so well.
Cool. I love the subway and the idea of it and using it. But yeah, you're right. The locals, like, they know it, like the streets that you would know in your town and how to get some. Oh yeah, you don't want to take 5. You want to take 321. You want to go there. But like, it is every weekend there. There's like construction, and they know all that too. Because if you're straight up tourist, you're not gonna know. I mean, you could look up the app, and then there are notices, but you have to like go to the Transit Authority website and look up their whole list of all the construction going on. Because I remember one last October when I was there, and I was just sitting there, and the only reason I kept waiting is because there was like 5 other people, probably also tourists and or still drunk or just fucked up, just hanging out in the subway. If there was nobody there, I would have left. But I know a train didn't come because it was one of those ones that got passed through. Like they go through. They don't use it on the weekend or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad I didn't know that. But yeah, that's on that station, Penn and Moynihan. I remember, when I took the train there, and you get off one, you're like, wait, is this all the same thing? Why are they named different things? And where do they go? And I remember like getting up from the escalator and just standing and looking around like I was in a fucking 1990s music video, like, and it was spinning around me, like the camera. And I was just like lost in a world of like,
you're right. And now, if movies and news have taught me anything, I've been robbed in the last 5 seconds. I've been wondering where to go. I have been pickpocketed already. Like, so I'm just like, but it's wild. It's wild because I didn't really, and I've gone in a Penn Station before, and I didn't realize like Madison Square Garden's connected to it, and like you don't even have to go outside if your train goes to Penn Station. You can go underground and then just go upstairs into Madison Square Garden. Like, it's a very interesting setup.
Yeah, that's how I came up, because I was like, oh, well, I don't know where I'm going, so that's when I decided to walk to my hotel, which was a great idea. But I mean, it was kind of a great idea to walk, but not a great idea for like feet and moving suitcase and stuff. But I came up. I was like, oh, I'll go up where probably near Madison Square Garden is, and I come up and you're inside the garden, and I was like, that's tight.
Yeah,
that's neat.
Yes,
I'm gonna tell all my family about this. Look out! Look out! Look out!
They never gonna believe this,
right? We got a new leader in the clubhouse. Matt's escalator to Madison Square Garden. It's the new out of towner scoreboard.
Yeah. So
I don't have my lights on, dude. I'm all out of. I'm rocking some bedhead today. Ooh, lights.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ooh.
Oh, speaking of lights, check
Color
this
changing.
out. Let me show you something. So when I came back from Ithaca and was driving to work for the next 5+ days, I was either driving in the fog, in the rain, or in the dark because I worked late. So I went over a week without blue sky in my drive. And it occurred to me, because I was like, this sucks. I was like, oh no, this is bad. Like, I don't.
No.
This is gonna be like whatever. This is gonna be the next 4 months of my life, basically. You know. I mean, there will be some day, but even like when people are like, winter's not that bad. There's like hardly snowed. And I'm like, I wish it would. That would be something different. That would be like some kind of life, some kind of texture to the world besides just gray and wet and cold. And it's like, this is going to be this. I'm not trying to like ruminate on it and have it be a bad thing. But I was like, I can't fucking believe every time I go home or go to work, it's just gray. You can't see, and I can't see. Like it sucks. So I was talking to a friend about it, and she was like, "Well, do you have a I forgot what she called it. Do you have a box light?" I was like, "A what?" She's like, "A box light." She's like, "You know, it helps people. You know, especially, you know, people who have seasonal affective disorder, or S.A.D, as we know. That's what happens to people in the north a lot, northeast, because the lack of light. I mean, we talked about it last year, but it has on that vitamin D prescription. So she told me about it. So I was like, here, I got one, and it just arrived. Let me show you what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little box that looks like an iPad. And here it is. And this is supposed to make me happy during the winter.
in
you.
layman's terms,
Get ready
it's just
if you're
supposed to
watching.
make me happy.
Yeah. Get ready to feel joy. Look how fucking... I disappeared because it was so bright.
Wow.
Look how happy I am.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's weird because it made everything else in your room seem darker unless you turned off lights.
Like magic. And it's got a little thing on it so I can set it down, and I could just look at it for hours. Like, I don't know how to use it exactly, but I think I've read some people like put it next to their bedstand, so like when they get up, it just slowly like lights up. And I think you do actually. I don't know if you're supposed to stare into it. I mean, I am. I kind of like it. But I could see this might be a game changer, you guys.
Okay.
So, feel happy.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
know, it's called a light box or something. Not much. But just another tool in the arsenal for me to feel.
Very nice.
Which I'm very excited. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work, you guys. Does anybody else have one? Let me know. How do I use it? How do I feel joy?
Does anyone have one of these? And am I doing this
Whoa.
right?
Just, another way to just... if you keep buying things, you'll feel better. That's what I've learned.
Right. See,
really
so like
helps
that's a twofer. If you buy a thing and the thing's purpose is to make you feel better, that's like a double dosage.
But it's
So
got
how
to...
can you
I
go
think it
wrong?
will. It's got to do something, because it was, like, this week, it just hit me. And not every week's going to be like that, but I was like, can I not fucking drive without my lights on for 20 minutes of my life? Or, like, just have, like, can I see the blue sky ever? It's just...
I'm gone.
Why do we... Darn it, why do we do that? It kind of hurted.
This was supposed to be the year too that we were supposed to pass that fucking bill where we don't go back to standard time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh shit, we still got that. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Forgot about that. Come on. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Just go to the light. Go to the light. Fortunately, we have nostalgia and memories to go back on to keep us happy.
Yeah.
And I just remembered that this morning. Did you do a 1998 poll for episode 88 for Stuff and Things?
Did I do a 98 poll for episode 88? No,
Or
I didn't.
88.
That wouldn't make any... No, I
88.
also didn't do that. No. So, for episode 88, I did not do a 1988 thing. But...
Okay. Let me toss a couple your way and get your feedback on them.
I'll opine on them, yes.
Okay. So
You know what? And next week I'll bring 89 to the table, and you don't have to.
Ooh, and I don't have to do work?
I'll bring topical things for 89
Yes.
and like more. Yeah,
good.
We'll do that.
That's a great idea. I don't know why we didn't think of that before. I guess it just worked out the way it's supposed to.
There you go. Yes.
So 1988. So considering if you're jumping in now, every episode we do a list of things from that year. We started at 1901, and now we're at 1988 for episode 88. We think about all. That's the whole format of the show.
We should have. At 101, we're actually going to go back. We're going to go back. At episode 100, we're going to talk about 1900, not 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a great episode on the icebox. So 1988, thinking of movies, TV. I don't even know if I did TV, whatever. These are things that resonate with me, at least. So probably some of it will with you. So things that were released in that year. So movies. I think pretty good year relative to 87. Probably the big one, the most cult classic. Actually, probably the one that's hottest right now. If you went to IMDb and looked up old movies, I bet this one would be at the top because of a sequel that's been released right now. Can you think of it? There's a sequel in the theaters, or recently in the theaters. Number one.
To a movie
Number one
that
in the
came
box
out in
office.
'88.
And the first movie came out in 1988. That sequel came out 34
Oh, Beetlejuice.
years later. Beetlejuice, just in the theaters. But yeah, it came out in 1988. And that definitely holds up.
Yes.
Tim Burton movie.
That movie is so good. Obviously it's hard to say like who would put on the map, but like, I mean, Alec Baldwin at that time, I don't know how big he was, or even Gina Davis. I think she was probably more prominent than Alec Baldwin in 1988. But I mean, that whole cast is so awesome. Like,
Winona.
yeah, Winona, and obviously Michael Keaton is phenomenal. And then Catherine O'Hara,
Pre-Batman.
had a really big. She had a big resurgence with Schitt's Creek. A lot of people know her from that, but she's the mother in that. There's been soon after her Second City stuff. So yeah, I mean the cast. It's a very minimal cast, but it's got so many good parts in it. I love Beetlejuice. I love the first one, and as a kid, I knew there was some. I think this was one that we had taped from TV, because I remember it wasn't until like college or something where I actually saw like the uncut stuff, the rated R humor in it that wasn't bleeped over, and I'm like, this does make sense. But yeah, I think it's such a cool comedy, kind of like a horror movie, like, because it kind of I mean, obviously as a kid it freaked me out. There were some parts that were like scary, like, yeah, and so just that whole, and how they did the imagery with like stop motion effects and stuff like that, like it made it that much more charming. Like I love the stuff that you see in the first one. I still haven't seen the sequel yet. There hasn't been enough crappy weather days for me to like go out to the movie theaters, and now I'm guessing I probably missed my window. It's probably out of the theaters now and going to be on Peacock in 2 weeks. But yeah, Beetlejuice is a big one for me. Love Beetlejuice, but I know it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I think for some reason what I remember as a kid is we weren't allowed to watch the movie obviously yet. But it was like rife for action figures. It was like perfect era of action figures because of all like the head shrinking and like, or the different like the beaky heads. Monsters. Or like the triple, all the but it was in a cartoon form too. I think on Fox 68 WSYT they had a cartoon, and I think I wasn't allowed to watch that either per se, but maybe did here and there. But I do remember there was this era of you could send, I don't remember if it was like UPCs or something that we sent somewhere, and from Fox 68 they sent us an orange VHS tape. And in your mind when you're a kid, you think everything's going to be so great. So it's like, oh, we're going to get cartoon shows, free shows. I think it was advertised as like whatever, the afternoon lineup. And I was like, oh, cool. We're going to get like all of the Batman the Animated Series shows coming out. And we're going to get the whole season. That's what I was thinking in my head. And it came and it was an orange VHS tape. And it had one episode of Beetlejuice on it. That's what it was.
Nice.
I was like, wow, what a treat. What a treat for us. But yeah, between that era, that it sticks out so much, and probably was a great era to be a very small child because you're so imprinted with imagery. That Beetlejuice, Batman, the first movie with Tim Burton, and Edward Scissorhands, all those movies came out fairly close to each other.
Probably within 2 years.
They still stick out aesthetically, yeah, because it's just different. And you're like, why doesn't everybody else make a movie like this? And I guess if they did, then it would be very watered down. So I guess it's good they don't.
Yeah.
Other movies. This would be probably one on your list. This is an utterly rewatchable movie, I think. If it was ever on, if it is on, I watch it all the time. Big, Tom Hanks.
Oh,
goes
okay.
to the Zoltar machine. Becomes a full-grown man. A boy becomes a full-grown man and works at a toy shop or a toy company, and has this gigantic apartment that you can never really have, filled with toys, and it's every kid's dream that you watch that and you're like, it must be the luckiest boy in the world. But then he's big enough to bang a woman, but doesn't know how. You know how he doesn't even know how to approach women, like guys like
Waka
like
waka.
me. Yeah, yeah. What do? You just play a giant piano with your feet in front of them, and they like it.
Yep.
Or you just be yourself and like toys.
So yeah, big. I mean, I watched it as a kid. It wasn't a big one. It wasn't a mainstay in like my movie fandom. It was there. It was very intriguing as a plot premise, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it just. I think. So Tom Hanks probably still wouldn't have. Yeah, Tom Hanks, that would have been a like pretty like standard Tom Hanks at that time, right? Because
Yeah.
the 80s Tom Hanks was
Comedy.
all about like comedy, Bosom Brothers, all that stuff. And then you like kind of went into the comedy drama with like Turner and Hooch later, and then Guns A-Blazing when he full switch to Forrest Gump in Philadelphia, and everyone's like, oh fuck, this dude actually can act. But yeah, 80s wacky Laffy Taffy Tom Hanks.
And they're always cool. 'cause
always a
it's
good
like,
time.
Yeah, his characters were always unique, but you felt like they belonged in the movie. He's always been good at like not being like sort of being Tom Hanksy, but with being the character. Like even in the Burbs and all that, like you still feel like he's playing the character. You know, it's not just like, oh, it's Tom Hanks being Tom Hanks.
Well, you want to know
I
what
think,
helps?
in my opinion.
I think is that he really looks like Joe Schmo. You know, he looks and
every man.
acts like a very normal dude, and I think that's just received well. Like if you like, that's the problem with like these guys like DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, guys who are known as like heartthrobs. You put them in these movies, and it's like, oh yeah, Joe Everybody, and you're like, fuck you, Joe Everybody. Like, you know, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, like these guys are very handsome individuals. They're not Joe Everybody. Shut up. And Tom Hanks, yeah, just kind of a dude, like you said, like in the Burbs. It's like, my God, he just seems like a guy who's even his friends and family just irk him. Like everything's kind of like, he's a nice guy, but he's also agitated by fucking everything around him, and he's just fed up. And I'm like, man, that speaks to me. I get it, Tom Hanks. You're crushing this role.
Twins.
Oh, well, yeah.
Danny DeVito, Arnold. That was big that year.
100%.
Here's another buddy movie. Actually, the number one movie of the year and the Oscar winner, I believe. Rain Man. Did you ever catch that one? Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. Yep. It's the world's first exposure to autism. Apparently, I don't know.
This is
it's
exactly.
Like the first time. Oh, yeah.
This is exactly like what that? All forms of autism are like. So. Yeah, exactly. This is what autism is, to the point. It's like, just let you know, you drop toothpicks and he's going to be able to count them all.
Yeah. Do you think the kid that screams in our class and wets his pants is really good at numbers?
Right. Should I take him to the blackjack table? I'm going to take him to the blackjack table. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to make this
weird
work.
Because there definitely was never an understanding of it. And I think even in elementary school and stuff, like, obviously when you're kids, you don't understand what's going on. But... And there definitely weren't, I mean, maybe there was, but there wasn't public knowledge of like different degrees of autism or how people are afflicted by it or like that. I think there was such an effort to try to fit everything into one box for sure. And this was it. It was like, because I think they even used to use the word like idiot savant was like a common phrase to use for people like that. And it was like, who were like, maybe didn't have social skills, but were really good at something or memorizing things or, so I'd have to. I haven't seen that movie in a while. I wonder how much it holds up in terms of like a fair assessment of somebody who is autistic. I don't remember. I'd have to check it out.
Yeah, it's all well. Yeah, because I don't remember very fresh as to the mannerisms of Dustin Hoffman, like of how he was portraying it, right? Because that's kind of the wonder. But autism's such a broad spectrum that who's to say that his version isn't exactly how someone out there is afflicted with autism, or what it ends up coming along as. Yeah, savantism. That savant is still an okay thing to say, I think. I think it's the idiot part that was
Not idiot savant.
that was the problem. So, like, a savant, that stuff blows my mind. Like, it's really intriguing, and that makes me think that at some point, like going all sci-fi, like we are going to figure out how to unlock that stuff, if you will, in our brains, because it shows that it can be done. And I think that it's just like a matter of time before we learn how to manually alter our brain waves and synapses to like figure out how to unlock that stuff, of people that can just, oh, give this person a date and they'll tell you what day of the week it was, or like they're just filled with stats and counting and stuff like that. Some version of it that's literally objective information that can be memorized, if that's the term you want to use, or figured out. And yeah, I think it's very interesting. That stuff's really intriguing. I'm curious to see how it goes along, but I assume that we will figure out how to do that, which isn't a good thing. I'm just saying I think it's on the horizon.
Probably this might be the biggest legacy movie.
Okay.
Die Hard. Probably.
Yeah, not for me. John
Yeah,
McClane's
so
never done it for me.
You know what? I kind of am in that boat too, and I'd hate to agree with you on this. I hate to truly hate to agree with you, but,
I truly hate agreeing with you. Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. I don't find myself rewatching it. I hate when people say it's their favorite Christmas movie, because it's
It's a big
whatever.
eye roll.
I know
That's a
takes
big
place-
eye roll.
It's just like
That's
and it's
that,
fine. It's a fine action movie.
That is such a corporate icebreaker to me, when people are like, question of the day, raise your hand if you think Die Hard's a Christmas movie. I'm like, no one fucking cares. Shut up.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, like, it's fine. It's not a bad movie, but it 100% for me, I'm like, if you give me a bunch of action movies to watch, I'm not watching Die Hard. And I've seen Die Hard 3 because in the 90s, the third Die Hard with Samuel Jackson was played ad nauseum on TV. So that one I remember.
Yeah, the taxi cab one.
Yeah. And I've never watched 2 or 4 or 5, however many there are.
I've seen some of the newer.
I've seen 1 and 3.
Yeah. They just vibe with it, with whatever was like the current style for action movies.
Yeah.
Kids movies that I knew: Pippi Longstocking, and this is an all-timer, The Land Before Time. That was big. It's big for that era. Definitely beat up that VHS tape. The little animated dinosaur movie had Littlefoot, Sarah, the Triceratops,
I remember what
Petrie.
the little pterodactyl was called. Petrie. Yeah.
What was that? Was it Rex? Rocks? Something? The other?
Rex.
One of them. But
Maybe. I saw that at the
Something
Auburn,
like that,
or at
but-
the Finger Lakes Drive-In. I remember seeing that at the Finger Lakes Drive-In.
A lot of merch with that.
Oh, yeah. Had the little
Um,
cups.
Is there like a billion Land Before Time movies now? I think there's
Yes.
a lot.
I want to say they passed
They still
the
go straight
10,
to VHS.
I think, right. They're not even straight to anything else. They're straight to VHS. Yeah, I feel like they exceeded the 10 movie mark, which is, regardless of how many people are watching it, if you exceed the 10 movie mark, I mean, that's good on you. Let me see. The last one made was 2016,
Jeez.
and there are 14 films.
No way.
And they stuck to, you know what? Good for them. They didn't do what every other fucking movie series does. You know what? I miss, Matt? I miss calling a fucking movie by the series name, slapping the number on it, and then if you want, going with a subtitle. But like the Fast and Furious assholes were like, we're going to get cute with it. Fast and Furious. And then Too Fast, Too Furious. And then Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And then The Fast and Furious. And then just Fast 5. Stop it. Land Before Time's like, this is called Land Before Time. This next one's called Land Before Time 2, 3, 4. Every single movie has its Roman numeral after it. And in 2016, we got Land Before Time 14, Journey of the Brave. Good on them for being true to how you're supposed to fucking make a movie series and name it. I'm mad.
Angry.
Yes, exactly.
That's good because I feel like at the end of the first one they're already pretty close to that extinction. But yeah, somehow they managed to get a lot of story before they all went away.
Right. It's like an episode of 24.
Good.
It's all within 24
good for
hours.
Them. Yeah, 24. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else really stood out for me. Music was pretty big. I'm gonna say this is a pretty big music year.
Okay.
It's definitely the year of music starting to get cool from the 80s, where it was kind of like 80s is a lot of like, it's almost poppy for pop's sake. It's like kitschy. It's like you had to be into the hits. Like it was very important culturally to be into what was popular, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably can't say it better than, what's his name, Christian Bale's character from American Psycho, the way he describes like the Huey Lewis and like how important it is to be like in the zeitgeist.
Fit in.
All that, yeah. But this is, I didn't realize, I mean, all these bands like had albums come out this year, and it was like definitely also like the 90s coming out. So it was like, well, the big album for me in my life that came out was And Justice for All, the Metallica album, the one that broke them into the mainstream with One, all that stuff. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but there's a vinyl of it behind me somewhere. That was huge, big for metal and metal on the radio. But all these other bands had albums come out this year, and it's a combination of like bands that got big in the 90s, but also bands that were probably big in the 80s. It's like all of your like college, whoever the guy who was like really cool in college and is still cool now and owns a record store, like all of his favorite bands came out that he still thinks are like too cool or too mainstream.
Too mainstream.
There's a lot of like Morrissey, Pixies, Pogues, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Talking Heads, like all those kinds of bands that someone in your friend group loves, just always is wearing a shirt of it or has a poster. Like, but yeah, then into the 90s stuff, some early 90s heavy hitters, Jane's Addiction, Sonic Youth, Soundgarden, all had big, well, I don't know if they're big, but kind of breakthrough records that year. And NWA and Public Enemy, years for them. So we're starting to see the combo of the maybe the alternative rock scene along with some more aggressive hip hop and rap is starting. So it's cool. It's kind of seeing, because I associate some of the stuff with like early 90s, and that's probably because when I became aware of it, because I started to like understand and have observations as a human being. But you know, you can see the stuff in the late 80s forming. That's kind of a big, seems like a big year. Seems like a big year for music.
It's a big year for anger. For like aggressive music. Like, and I wonder like if you were 18 in 1988, so feel free to chime in if you were a college person at this time, like were people loading up on both? Were there like if you were listening to like metal and really hard rock and you know the pre, I don't know what you call it, like the Jane's Addictions, the old Soundgardens. I don't know what you really refer to them as.
Probably would have just been called alternative back then, I bet.
Yeah, I don't know what that era pre-grunge is, what you'd call them. But I wonder if those people were buying NWA and Public Enemy albums. Because now when you look back at NWA and Public Enemy albums, like I sat down and made myself listen to Straight Outta Compton for the first time like a few years ago. And I'm like, this is really good. I'm like, this is really good album.
That's the album
like,
that came out in 88, yeah.
It's really good. And I'm like, man, like to think that like that came out the same time as Injustice. I'm like, was there someone who's just like, I don't like need to be in one genre because this is rad and gets me pumped up, and this is rad and gets me pumped up, but for like very different reasons. And I think that's cool that to have been like a young adult in that time when that type of music is on the rise. It's probably a little like jarring because it's like, man, this is aggressive. Like you said, it's just like emotionally aggressive music. Not that it makes you an aggressive person, but it's emotionally aggressive music. Like, and it's like, okay, this is the death of like hair metal, like girls, and we're gonna go drink and just get girls and stuff. And it's more like, I'm
Glam
just
rock.
gonna, yeah, exactly, like the glam rock era. So that had to have been really cool to be a young adult for those types of releases being in one year and being mainstream.
Because I think, in the 80s, like, it's this interesting era of where supposedly the West is dominant. We're nearing the end of the Cold War. So there's this idealistic war being fought. But I think people, I mean, it's not like the first time people had considered that maybe the U.S. wasn't all good, superhero all the time. But there still was enough of that going on. But it's like you start learning in the 80s of all these like shadow wars going on and kind of spots we're sending like special forces to around the world and little spots and countries and hubs. And a lot of this news breaks out. And people are learning about it. And it's probably maybe the first time people are starting to get disillusioned with, the post-World War II America. I mean, not the first time, because obviously it's happening in the 60s in Vietnam and all that. But I think in terms of it being mainstream, it's not just a hippie thing anymore. It's more commonplace that you could probably be like, I don't know, some of this stuff is a little fucked up. I don't know. Reagan. Don't even get me started on Reagan, because
I won't know where to go with it.
He's a fine actor.
Don't get me started because I don't want to talk about it because I'm not good at it.
Video games. We had, this is the year ice hockey came out, so we talked about it last episode.
Nice.
Ice hockey, big game.
Yeah.
And it probably came out, so in '88, that was the Olympics were that year. So, and I think they might have been in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So probably a big year for hockey. And Mario Brothers in America, Mario Brothers 2 dropped, which is the weirdest fucking game you'll ever play in all of the Mario series. Because it wasn't supposed to be, if I remember correctly, it wasn't supposed to be a Mario game. Actually, the original sequel to Mario, Super Mario Brothers, is now what's called. You can get it in the Super Mario All-Stars collection that was on SNES, or it's probably on your Switch if you have that.
Lost Levels.
The Mario All-Stars. It's the Lost Levels. And they thought that it was too hard for mainstream.
America wouldn't
and they're
take
kind
it.
of right. I don't know if you ever played
it's
Lost
absurd.
Levels. It's very
It's
hard.
absurd. It's
I
Mario
enjoy it a
1.
lot.
It's the Mario 1 platform with just substantially harder boards. Way more fire and jumping and moving things.
Yeah. Platforming's way more difficult. Some of it's borderline unfair. But it is fun. It's if you really want to challenge yourself to gaming, give it a go. But I think they were like, oh, this is way too hard. I think they released it in Japan. So Mario 2 is really just a port or a cover. It was just a skinned version of some game. I forgot what it was called, but I think it was almost like a type of like Aladdin world. It was like a Middle Eastern setting, a platformer, and so that's why it's so very, very bizarre. But now, looking back, it holds up. I still jump into it once in a while just for the mechanics, just for the visuals, just for that little key chasing you around, and it's terrifying. And you're like, ah. Or that little thing while you're holding the
you
key,
pick
the
up
little
a key
mask.
and that little like, the mask.
Yeah.
It's based on Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic.
That's what. Yeah. Okay. It was right on the tip of my tongue. Yeah.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. It's a weird game. I mean, it's a fun game in its own right, but yeah, it is kind of comical that they played it off as a Mario game, and then Mario 3, they're like, all right, well, that was enough of the dream sequence. Back to this world. Oh, and by the way, Bowser has 9 kids. So, yeah, Mario 2 was interesting. Great game? No. Good game.
Good game. Some people do consider it a great game. Some people, it's like their top. And I could see why. I couldn't argue with somebody if they just like the
Yeah.
aesthetic and the gameplay. But it's definitely different. And here's something that came out in '88 that is a big deal later on. And I'm not a big comic book guy, but I own this. Actually, it would be called what I now know is a graphic novel. I did not know it at the time. But my mom brought me to there's some comic store in Syracuse, like downtown Syracuse, and I was just like, I'm gonna get some Batman comics because I was into Batman. I probably didn't even get it when I was 5. I think I probably got it a couple years later, but it had come out in '88, and it's called Batman: The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. So Alan Moore is like one of the most influential, important comic book writers, I think, of our era in terms of graphic novels. I think he's done like The Watchmen. I don't even want to go into it because I'm such a noob with comics, but I know he's one of the most important people. I think he did like Swamp Thing, or I'll
I don't want to go into it,
I don't
but
want
I need
like,
to go into
totally
it.
besmirch him. Oh, V for Vendetta. That was one that I remembered. Okay. From Hell. So he's so influential that a lot of his graphic novels end up becoming movies. Yeah, Swamp Thing. He did do, yeah. Watchmen. Yeah, so. But what's important about The Killing Joke is that it's kind of like the Joker origin story that we know today. So when you watch The Dark Knight, a lot of it is borrowed from Alan Moore's version of this graphic novel. And also, it is very violent, this comic, and I should not have had it when I was 7 because I'm pretty sure it gave me nightmares. There's like circus freaks, there's blood, there's people getting shot. Like I'm pretty sure Joker shoots Barbara Gordon. There's nudity. There's like it's just filled with pretty rough imagery to see when you're a young child. But of course, it's a comic book store, so my mom wouldn't have known. She didn't look through it.
Right.
The other comic I also got then was The Death of Robin, which was like a collection of, and I think it was like, I don't know if it was like the Tim Drake Robin or whatever, but Joker blows him up into bits and pieces or something like that. I was like, wow, that's...
There goes Robin.
If you're ever wondering if comic books can have an effect on a young boy's mind,
Turns out
you
it
look at me
can.
now and you decide. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad I saw it. I wouldn't change it. I just, it's one of those things. Again, I don't have the appreciation for it. I didn't know I was getting into. I thought I was going to look at some Adam West type comic, like from the TV show. It'd be like that, just cheesy and fun, like that. We may have talked about it. I remember. Did you ever get into any? Did you ever own a comic or have a few or just laying around? Like,
I don't think I did. I never really had a lot of exposure to comics, and I think like many things, the concept overwhelmed me. Like going into comic book stores and seeing like boxes of comics and stuff, and like it'd be like, okay, you can pick 3 comics, go. Stimulation overload. I wouldn't be able to know where to even start. Like I like a linear path of things, so I wouldn't be able to pull it off. To this day, I don't think I could get into comics. Not because I don't like them. It's because I wouldn't know where to start. Wouldn't know if I'm picking the right comics that are interesting. Like, so it's too saturated of a market. And sometimes it even comes with like frustration because there's so many universes and versions and editions that it's like, oh yeah, there was a, like, obviously speaking in hyperbole, but it's like, oh yeah, there was a 10 issue edition where Batman is a stapler, and it's in an alternate universe, and the Joker's a ham sandwich, and they go around and they're actually partners, and like, and it's just like, I can't. It's like, so what's the Joker origin story? Whatever. What is Superman dead? Oh yeah, he's died a handful of times. It used to be a guy no one could kill. Now he's been killed off like 17 times. And he's a robot now. And it's just like, I get that there's probably people that enjoy the fact that you can take any comic any direction, but to me it's like it's just confusing, and it's leaking into like the movies too, which is fun but also I think frustrating for some people. Like Deadpool played to that a lot. Of right is like you can have, oh, they worked into this version of this and this version of this and this and but that's almost what like jacked up like the X-Men movies towards the end. Is that like I finally watched Dark Phoenix, and that was a cluster. I've seen worse movies, but that was pretty dumb. But yeah, I mean, I never could get into comics because I just didn't. It was so non-linear that I would never know. I don't think I could enjoy what I was reading because I know there's something out there that's telling me a very different story of the same characters.
Well, unfortunately, there's not anybody out there like a comic expert or anything that would tell us exactly where to start, which multiverse we should start on, or which edition we should start on, and how many we should read. There's nobody like that that's like an expert on it that would unsolicited tell us what we should start with and why it's the best or anything like that. So don't put that in the comments. We don't want to hear about it.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Our comic people are, I mean, it's just like any other walk of life. No, yeah, start with this. This came out in like 1998. Now you're going to want to read this one first because this tells like the tale of this, and this will prep you for this. Then when you read the next 2,000 editions, you're going to really, it'll start to pick up after like the first 700. You're going to really,
Right, but you
it's
have
all
to
going
read
come
those
together.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
nah, unlikely. So I feel if I had
appreciate
started
it.
as a child, I could have liked it, but as an adult, I'm too anxious to dive in.
Yeah. And I've read I like graphic novels. You're right, yeah. Just like single units, like a story kind of deal. I do. I appreciate the medium. I don't like all art styles, so I'm pretty unique like that. I only like what I like. But it's one of these days, I don't know. Like I picked up a Star Wars comic here and there just to look through it at the library. I used to go to the Austin Library and look at the Star Wars graphic novels.
Yeah.
I'm a real reader. I'm a real bookworm.
Ooh, bookworm. Haven't heard that term in a while.
That's about it. I don't own them, and I never will.
Okay.
All right.
Any other
Probably about
88s
it right there, right at that tight hour mark.
Yeah.
People should know, relative to comics, though, that we're kind of running some train on some Fortnite lately. If you guys want to join up with us, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, I don't know, we're like 80 games into our Fortnite career between us and one of my buddies. So we're getting there. We're getting some dubs.
Yeah.
We're killing some kids.
Really having a good time murdering. Maybe we've killed your kids on the game.
It is so fun.
We don't know.
Dub. I can't believe I'm into it. I've never played it in my life. I mean, I did for like a couple days, but now we're not like this.
Yeah.
Now we do it like a
No, I really enjoy playing it. I kind of like side-eyed it for so long with people, and I'm like, I don't know, it just seems kind of dumb. Nope, it just took me playing with someone I knew and learning it, and then going, oh no, this is actually really entertaining.
And it is dumb. Like even like the Marvel thing going on now. I wish I didn't jump in on the Marvel season where it was all Marvel characters and all the powers and all the stuff to pick up. But if I can get through this, I can get through any season.
Absolutely, that's how you got to look at it. Be like, because then things will make you feel better if you went through the dark days of the Marvel spots. So if they take away those types of weapons, then you'll be like, wow, I can do anything. So, yeah,
Yep,
no,
get
it's
through
fun.
The biggest version.
Video games is fun. Playing online is the way I prefer to play, more so than one-player things, because I like it because of the social aspect. It's kind of the next best thing of that to hanging out in person with someone is having a buddy, text you and say, hey, want to jump on for a few games? And it's like, yeah, I can do that. I could do that. I could jump on for an hour and a half, and sometimes that's nice on a weekday instead of just like streaming something that you're like, I guess I'll watch this because I'm not doing anything. Yeah.
Quick rec before we go. There's a show on Hulu that I've just been loving. I've been loving it. I like it. It's fine. But it's an FX show. It's called The English Teacher. It's a comedy. It's like a sitcom. It's
Okay.
probably my favorite sitcom since like The Office in a way. It's about this guy who's an English teacher in an Austin, Texas high school, even though they don't film in Austin. They have some coverage. They have some coverage of some exterior. But it's really good. I don't want to spoil it, but it's kind of it's a very modern sitcom. Like they do like address a lot of like current social issues, but in a not heavy-handed way. Like whether it's drag shows. I mean, the main character's gay, so but then of course they ask him to like talk to students about being transgender, and that's not what he is. So it's like, why are you asking me to do this? That's not what I have. There's like gun stuff, but it's all like, I feel like it's very well balanced and funny. Like, because the joke isn't about just being transgender or being gay, which is, we've talked about it before, but that shouldn't be, like, that's not really a punchline per se. I mean, it can be if it's really good, but it's just, it's part of the world. So they do a really good job of world building and including whatever issues or people or different demographics that actually exist in the world, but it's not about that. It's about the other stuff that's going on in the world or in the school or about the relationships, about the people. So it's like, it's not as heavy-handed. It's creating a world where everything exists as it does in the real world, but it's about what happens between people. And it's funny. And it just genuinely is like very enjoyable. I binged it. I think there's like 5 episodes out now called The English Teacher. I could see how some people it wouldn't be their cup of tea if you don't want to be exposed to just anything about our world. But it's like, I think it's fair and balanced, which is important to me when I consider programming.
Yeah.
So give it a goog.
What is it called again?
English Teacher.
English Teacher.
Don't worry, you don't have to have passed English to watch it.
Oh, good.
But it just takes place in a school, and he's an English teacher.
Is it a
And there is
Hulu
allusions to gay
show?
sex. So if that's not for you.
Oh my. I'm looking at the
But
cast.
there are
and
also are allusions
and I recognize
to
none of
heterosexual
these
sex.
people.
No, that's what's great too. I
Yep,
might
I
have
literally
recognized a guy or
recognize
two. Like
not
the principal
any
of
of
the
these
school was
people.
in some other show I know.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
always
fun.
nice.
Like if you liked the Office vibes, in terms of like having an irreverent show but grounded in some kind of reality, but
Mm-hmm.
kind of fearless, but yeah, grounded, I would say. It's worth it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hey, but don't take my word for it. Reading Rainbow. All right.
Word. Speaking of reading Rainbow, before we sign off, that Pop Culture Jeopardy show is starting, and I think like LeVar Burton is involved in it.
Is that the one we didn't make it to?
That's the one we didn't do. Yes, it turned into
Yeah,
a Pop Culture Jeopardy show, and it's teams and stuff. Colin Jost is gonna be hosting it, though, I think. But I don't know how LeVar Burton's involved, but
Well, that's an
think
exciting
Colin Jost.
development in your world.
isn't it though? Isn't it? Isn't it? It is.
You know, I really should start recording. I could just fucking pop it on my Hulu, just start recording Jeopardy episodes and watch them at night. I don't know why I don't do that.
Yeah, dude, that's what I
did
do. I got like
record the
3.
other
I got
night.
3 in the bag right now.
Yeah. I did record an episode of Family Feud the other night that I forgot about that I haven't watched, just because I was looking through what was live and it said Family Feud, and it was like the celebrity one, so I was just like hovering over the names. I was like, And then the 3rd episode said, "The Best of Steve Harvey." So
Oh,
I have
well,
that currently recorded.
There
on
are
my
going to
DVR.
be so many sassy things. Oh, it's so sassy.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of staring at the camera on that one. I can't wait. 55 minutes of...
Old Family Feud be like, name something you take to the beach. New Family Feud's like, name something your partner might ask you to stick in one of their orifices. And then it's like, whoa! And I'm like, wow, this got weird.
Name another word for male phallus.
Right.
Dong.
What
You
in
hear
the
this,
world? Yeah.
What?
Unfortunately,
this is a family show.
Unfortunately, they are playing against the Dong family, so it was extra
All right.
extra offensive.
Well, dong you later. I don't know.
That's weird.
More than me.